大家好，欢迎观看讲坛 GA， 我是节目主持人杨友马克。
We got that. 请，
好，Welcome to TalkGA, our podcast on anything and everything Grand Archive. I'm your host, Mark from Solar Games, and joining me are my co-hosts, Eva and Fome.
It's spoiler time.
Spoilers.
Yeah.
Okay, just like Fome said earlier, today's show is a normal episode. However, we're going to kick it off with our TalkGA exclusive spoilers that we got from Grand Archive team. We have 3 cards to present to you for today, and each one of us will present one card, and the other 2 hosts actually do not know the other cards. So it's going to be new for both of you as well when I share my card.
Yep.
And same for me. Yeah.
Exciting.
So,
Who has the best card?
Yeah,
let's do it.
All right, let's go.
Let's go.
All right.
Okay, guys, looks like I got the first spoiler. To start us off, I will provide you with a quote from The Art of War in English. And that quote is, true victory is attained not through fighting and winning 100 battles, but by winning without fighting at all.
Peaceful reunion.
Good guess.
Interesting.
And also let you guys know that this card, it could be useful against both Gildas and Geldis.
That's so specific.
They're not related.
Wait, hold on. Destroy target unit whose name starts with G and ends with S.
You got it. How did you know?
Yeah. That's it.
All right. Are you guys ready to see the card?
Yeah.
Go.
Ready for it.
It's called Bring Down the Mighty.
Ooh.
It is a norm element, 1 cost, assassin, skill, action. Until the beginning of your next turn, target ally can't attack. If that ally is unique, draw a card into your memory.
Oh, it's actually peaceful reunion, but it targets.
You're pretty close.
Okay.
But did I lie? It's good for Gildas and Geldis.
Yeah.
I'm actually not sure what else it's that good for, to be honest. The fact that it has an extra bonus if your ally is unique seems to telegraph that there may be some very powerful unique allies in the set.
Yeah. I think the fact that it costs 1, it cantrips, it draws a card when you play it into memory, so not into hand, so it's not that crazy, is good. The part that I saw like a little bit tricky is the slow speed.
It's slow, yeah.
Yeah, so you have to really like do it on your turn. It's very telegraphed. People know that they can't use it. So
what do you think of this art? It looks like from the flavor text, it says, unbeknownst to even Lubu herself.
Lubu herself.
Herself. This marked not the end, but the beginning.
Interesting.
So.
But I think we're gonna save talking about like the lore and the characters for like a little bit afterwards, right? That's gonna be like.
But it just gives you a little bit of a hint of what's coming.
Interesting.
Nice. Flavor text. I like flavor text.
Yeah.
All right, Mark. So you think about who you think is on this card, and you let us know.
This is
a little
hard.
bit.
This is really hard. But okay.
Next card.
Next card.
I think I have the next spoiler.
Let's do it.
Let's go.
Okay, time for my card.
Nice.
All right, let's do it.
So I'm gonna tell you guys a quote, and I think Mark is gonna be able to guess immediately what this card is.
Oh, it's a quiz.
I think you're gonna know it immediately.
All right.
So Mark, the quote is, "I would rather betray the world than let the world betray me." Who said that?
Cao Cao.
Yes!
Cao Cao. Yeah.
Oh, so the card is Cao Cao.
Oh, it is?
We have Cao Cao.
You have
The Cao Cao's in.
Oh.
Yes. We have Cao Cao reimagined as a cute water girl.
Cao
Cao.
Okay, yeah.
Cute anime water girl Cao Cao. All the things I love.
It's the same art as the fractal card.
Yeah.
Wait, what do you mean?
Burst Asunder, one of the new AMB spoilers.
Oh, it's the same character from Burst
as
Asunder.
that one, yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay, so this card is Cao Cao, Aspirant of Chaos. It is a water element card. Unique ally, mage human. Unique ally!
Hey, I could deal with this.
It has 5 reserve cost, but with Equestrian, as long as you control a horse ally, this card costs 3 less to activate. So if you have a horse, it'll cost 2. And then class bonus for mage. On attack, you may banish a card with floating memory from your graveyard. If you do, deal 2 damage to each rested unit you don't control.
What?
And then its stat lines are 2 power and 2 life.
Inzali, is that you?
It's basically
Water
Inzali
Inzali.
2.0.
Does,
Yeah.
Except it does 2 damage instead of 1 damage.
But
Yeah.
better.
And only costs 2.
Okay.
Yeah, if
Kind of interesting.
if you get with the equestrian bonus, it seems pretty good.
Yeah.
You know what? This art, there's a lot of water in the art, so I think we should hydrate up. Ching.
징징징.
Okay.
Oh, right, we had to do that.
Okay.
Ching.
All right, guys. Gomboy.
Hey,
간배.
Gomboy.
징징징.
kanpai.
Yes, my fellow Chinese Americans.
All right, guys. My card. I almost feel embarrassed sharing it because I feel like you're gonna make fun of me again.
Another
Yes.
Ooga Booga fire card.
Something like this. Yeah. So I do also have a quote for you. This one I will do in Chinese and I'll translate it for everybody.
Oh, dang.
众人言，人中吕布，马中赤兔。
Oh.
Wait, I don't even speak Mandarin and I know what that quote means.
Yeah. It's a famous quote. Translation is, 吕布 is men among men, and then the red hair is horse amongst horse, right? So meaning this is the, whatever translation. It's just, he's the best, and the horse, these are peerless, right?
We're getting red hair, right?
Oh, maybe, yeah. Unfortunately, the card is not red hair.
Okay, so
It's also not Lü Bu.
What? Wait, what?
No.
What does it have to do with
I thought it was Lu Bu.
I think maybe you should open the card and see
being
what it looks
baited?
like.
All right,
Yeah.
you opening it?
Okay, wait,
Open it.
what?
Okay,
Open it.
okay.
Oh, okay.
The artwork does have both Lü Bu and red hair.
Oh, the art is so cool.
The card, I'll read it to everybody, right? It's a fire card. 2 costs called Oppressive Presence. It's a action warrior skill. You activate this card only during your opponent's recollection phase. Until the end of the turn, players cannot declare attacks with allies unless they pay X for each attack declaration, where X is the highest power among fire element allies you control. And this is done at fast speed, of course, right? Because this is prereq.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Huh?
Have you
Fire
heard
fog
Have you heard of tariff ring?
for fire?
Have you heard of a tariff ring? And that's based on how strong my allies are. And I can have 4 copies of them
What?
in my deck. Yeah.
Wait, what?
Fire
This card
control? This is crazy.
This card is oppressive.
Actually,
Yeah.
quite the oppressive.
I want to see Lü
presence.
Bu as a card where it's like some weird stat line like 5/1.
I feel like, is this the second fire defensive card? After
Under fire?
under fire?
Yeah.
What?
Okay, so a couple things, right? So read the card specifically here, right? Players can't declare attacks with allies
Right.
unless they pay X.
Okay.
Okay, so there is a little bit weakness to this card, and that's around your champion can attack for you to clear the way of whatever the oppressive presence is, and then there's essentially no oppressive presence or a less oppressive presence. Does it make sense? So
Yeah.
I thought about playing this with Blitz Mage, a 3/1. So normally a Blitz Mage, as you play it, you basically think it's gonna die. But if I have a 3/1 and you can't declare attacks with, let's say, Sylvie, how do you clear the Blitz Mage? Because you have to pay 3 for your allies to even attack. But yeah, essentially, it's another way. This card feels like like Arthur rested. It's a setup card for next turn, right? You play something big or you have something big already on board. You play the card. You prevent them from clearing your board until next turn.
Only on their art collection.
Yeah.
This is really interesting. Just based on some of the cards that we have received, it kind of tells me that they're trying to slow down the tempo of the game.
We all kind of control cards.
Just a lot of stall cards. It seems
Or
like.
board clears. Usually when you get cards like that, it's a good sign the game is kind of moving in a control direction, right? The board can't get out of control, or people can't attack. Yeah.
I love this art. It's Pinake's,
Yeah.
the goated artist.
Yes. Also the art is amazing.
Yeah,
that flash of the red hair's eyes.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And Lü Bu with I guess now it's essentially twin tails because it's the helmet, right?
That's the helmet, and then of course the famous Lü Bu weapon, 方天画戟. So that's the halberd, the sky. What's it called? Sky something halberd. Yeah, it's cool. I feel like I could run this card.
I see why you think we would shit on you for this card.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I kind of
Why?
don't think you'll run this card.
No?
Because you want to just slam and attack.
I think you have to. Well, first you have to have aggro allies, right? But I mean, I could see this card even being played later in the game. Like if I have a Pendragon out and I play this card, you have to pay 3. Kind of good. Deer out, you have to pay 4.
Oh, with Dira, I mean, nothing's going through.
Sure, but yeah, like it just adds a little layer of like protection. But there is weakness to the card, right? So you can disassemble the card by literally killing the ally somehow, one way or another. You can spell damage, kill it, those kind of things. So yeah, I think it's fair of a card. Yeah,
Cool.
It's good, but it's fair.
So like now that we've like seen these 3 cards together,
Yeah.
are you like piecing together the Mortal Ambition version of the Three Kingdoms lore?
Yeah, time to talk lore.
Do you know what scene this is from?
No specific scene comes to mind here, but this is the general feeling of Lü Bu, where if Lü Bu was sent out to like war, essentially everyone's just so afraid they just don't even fight because he was
He's the
so
GOAT.
oppressive.
Best character in Dynasty Warriors.
Correct. Yeah, that level.
Cool.
Yeah.
What about in the card that I presented? Like when they had like Lü Bu all chained up.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Is that like the 2 other characters like kind of looming over Lü Bu right now? Is
Yeah.
like, was there a part in the story where they like teamed up to like take him down?
Yeah. So do you know what the 2 characters are? Who they are?
No idea.
I think you know maybe one of them,
Yeah, I
right?
think we've seen the girl on the left with the green
Well, that
hair.
was the Fairy Whispers.
Yeah, Fairy Whispers.
Art girl. But who is that?
I actually mean the one on the right.
Oh, who's that?
Take a look at Eva's card.
Oh, it is. So,
Wait, is it her?
it's Cao Cao.
Yeah, I think
Oh,
so.
it is.
Is it
Cao
just
Cao.
her?
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Shit.
Because when I saw the artwork, the first thing I thought about was,
Oh, the
was
headdress,
exactly this
yeah.
scene. The fans and the headdress, I think, are the same, right?
Oh, wait,
So
you're
to
right.
me, it should be the same person. Now, the art style is a little different, but direction in general, I think is the same.
Okay, so Cao Cao and someone else teamed
Yeah.
up to take down Lü Bu. What is that? Does that actually call out to a certain part in the story?
Yes, actually, yes, absolutely. So this is basically Lü Bu like survived when Dong Zhuo was killed, and he essentially was still surviving all the way towards the end until Cao Cao basically invaded his little like castle and then overtook him. And then of course this part where Lü Bu is about to lose, Lü Bu is going to Cao Cao and saying, "I will serve you loyally." And yeah.
So what's the other person next to Cao Cao?
That I'm not really sure actually. Eva, did you have something you want to say about your card?
So I have a guess as to what's happening in my card.
Yeah.
You let me know how accurate you think this is.
Okay.
Okay, so Cao Cao is like a military warlord, right?
Yeah.
So this could definitely be Cao Cao at the Battle of Red Cliffs, which
okay.
takes place at the Yangtze River.
Yeah.
Which is why she's like splashing water on her enemies.
Okay.
And this is her being like, oh ho ho ho, the world can't betray me if I betray it first.
Wait a minute. Okay.
Which definitely canonically happened.
Yeah. Oh, you have a really great point.
You see the vision?
There's a mountain on the left part of this, right? So that would support the Red Cliff, and there's water. But is that thing, the building in the back, is that a building or is that a boat? And that's the guard. So again, Han Dynasty boats don't look like how we think of boats today. But the bottom part makes me think that looks more like a boat than again, I can't really quite see the card's image artwork. But if we had the full art of this, maybe it could give me more hints. If that's actually a boat, then I think you're 100% right.
Hey.
Yeah. That'd be cool.
I'm Cao Cao Chan.
I'm Cao Cao Chan.
So I don't know if they're gonna do like Liu Bei, who's the kind of like anti-Cao Cao person, but so funny in the story, that quote you mentioned earlier, right? I'd rather betray the world than have the world betray me. Liu Bei literally said the opposite. After Cao Cao's quote became famous, Liu Bei would say, "I would rather the world betray me than to betray the world."
Oh.
Plagiarism.
To clearly state like that Liu Bei is on the opposite side of Cao Cao, that there's a line drawn and that we are not the same person at all. Yeah.
And there's no chance that Liu Bei could be the green-haired person?
Eva, 2 for 2.
Mark!
Dude, 100. Oh, bro.
Bro.
I think so. Because you know why? Oh, okay. More.
All right, we got
change.
change.
Okay. Dude, first of all, I think our viewers are probably like, the whole time they're screaming, like, it's just Liu so obvious. Mark,
It's so obvious.
Lore Master, why are you not getting this? Yeah, during this time, Liu Bu actually betrayed Liu Bei. So there was 2 cities, right? Xiaopei, and then like, basically there was 2 cities, castles, smaller one and bigger one. One would defend the other. Liu Bu basically actually took over the bigger castle and kicked Liu Bei out, even though they were supposed to be like allies. So Liu Bei actually was betrayed by Liu Bu. This part was when Cao Cao actually just went into the city and then took over the city, captured Liu Bu. And you're right. I do believe in that scene, Liu Bei was present as well.
Oh, okay.
I think
everything
right.
makes sense now.
Okay.
We figured it out.
So this is cool. This is cool. Also, another thing you can say is it looks like, right, we have the elements kind of settled. Liu Bu's faction, wherever that is going to be, is red. Cao Cao's faction is going to be blue, purplish. This is already like, if you ever played Dynasty Warriors, it's kind of like the colors already. And then Liu Bei's faction, which is also traditional in artwork, but also in like a lot of games, is green. So
Perfect.
this actually,
It's probably,
it's probably right.
Yeah.
I think it tracks. Yeah. Okay.
Cool.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you so much, Weebs the Shore, for giving us spoilers to
Thank you
reveal.
so much.
Thank you.
Stick around for the rest of the podcast.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get changed, I think, right?
Yes.
We're not.
Swap.
We're not doing this. Okay.
And we're back. To our main show. So for today's show, we're gonna go over cornering the market, some major BNR announcements. Yeah, we're gonna spend some time talking about that. We're gonna cover the Southern California regional, hosted by Corhazi TCG a little bit too. Lots of interesting things to happen out of that as well. And real quick, just a couple of side notes. Number one, the Three Kingdoms lore-focused episode will be basically sometime after more Mortal Ambition cards have been revealed. So we will make sure that episode is done. And last announcement is that playmats that we announced on the last episode have all been sold out. So thank you all so much for your support. We really appreciate everyone who bought a playmat from us. Again, just watching the show, supporting us. Thank you so much.
Thanks, you. Guys. Hope you all enjoy your playmats.
Yeah. All right, on to cornering the market.
Corner the market.
Ching. Okay, so just a little bit of a caveat for today's cornering the market. Much of the cards are going to be referencing today could be related to the banner restricted announcement that we're going to be discussing later. So I'm not going to dive super heavily into any of those, and we'll save it for a later section. So we'll be brief, but yes. Okay, coming up first is a returning card from last episode about Vampiric Slime. As predicted, this card is continuing to slide down. I think right now we've slid beyond $20. So I think the lowest I saw last time I checked was around $18 a card, right? So this thing is definitely coming down. Again, for the same reasons we stated on the last episode, it's not in the current meta, but it could be.
Yeah, at one time it was like $50, right?
Yeah, so there's something. Maybe if there's any deck that could see it, maybe Mortal Ambition will change some perspective there. That could go back up again. So maybe a good time to start thinking about picking up some slimes, Vampiric Slimes.
You said last episode it was what, 30?
About 30, which has slid down from 50, and now we're under 20 now.
Got it.
Yeah. So we're gonna reach the bottom. Again, this card is a ultra rare. So just be put in perspective. It's not that easy to get this card. It's easier than Alchemical Revolution, but it's not that easy. Yeah. Next card is Corhazi Outlook. This card is down to $5 in the foil from around 20 when it was in the highs. That's a 75% downshift. We all know why. So
we'll get into that a little bit later.
But you know what? There's always GA Grand Archive PV.
Yeah, PVE. Or maybe they'll have a no ban list format sometime down the line that you can play this card in.
Sure. Next card is me, Windmill Engineer. I think last episode I kind of hinted that this may be the Frost Paladin of MRC, and it's definitely looking that way. It's a uncommon that's pushed up all the way to $4 last time I checked, and hanging pretty solid around that number. Again, up from $2 from just 2 weeks ago, which I already thought was kind of high for uncommon. But again, it's 200% increase. It continues to rise. This is a staple in a lot of wind decks, so it totally makes sense. I see it all the time when I play wind or play against wind. Next card is going to be solely in the Arasana side here. Cosmic Bolt is up to $4 now, and maybe potentially even higher. And it really came from, I think just a week ago, it was at $1, right? Of course, we also know why this card went up a lot. But yeah, so quite a bit of change, 300% increase, in fact. Most Arizona deck, as far as like playtesting I saw, they want to run, wherever they're going to run a new Proxy's Vault card Polaris, they probably want this card. And I think number-wise, what I've heard is anywhere between 10 to 14 of this in your, deck box that you're going to need, 4 in the main deck and maybe 10 extra, just in case.
Wow.
But so that's why it's pushing this card up, right?
Yeah, and we'll talk all about Polaris and all its ramifications on the meta a little bit later.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, we can't talk about Arizona cards increasing in price and not talk about the best card in maybe Arizona portfolio, which is the Astral Seal. This is the one and only basically unrestricted negate card within Grand Archive right now.
The hard no.
The hard no, yeah. So it's up to $9 on the non-foil version, and the foil version has basically gone up to $45 and sold all the way through. There are no foil listed, I think, on the market. So again, market's dry. It's an increase, of course, and I think if Arizona is going to be the main meta, everybody's going to want to run 4 copies of this card in their deck because it's just really good once you hit level 3. And that's going to be it for this week's Cornering the Market. Let's switch gears right into our main topic, banned and restricted.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Well, so we had a BNR announcement the beginning of September, and I think a lot of people were waiting for this one. There's 2 major aspects of the BNR.
Yeah.
One was a straight up banning and a new Proxy's Vault card. So we're going to talk about the banning first. Corhazi Outlook has been shifted from category 2 to category 3. So now it's officially completely banned. I think we've been talking about this card quite a bit.
Talking about it so much.
For like all our previous episodes of TalkGA.
Yeah.
Eva, you had some strong opinions about this card before. How do you feel now that it's banned?
Oh my goodness. It's really funny. I feel like I have like 2 extreme biases that are on polar opposite ends of the spectrum. Where like on one side, I personally am happy and strongly agree with the ban because like I play the exact deck archetype, the like reactionary deck that that this card basically shits on. But then on the other hand, I can't really feel happy about it just because it's had such a huge impact on our local community.
Yeah.
We've all been feeling it the past week or since the ban and restricted was announced. So for a bit of context, our local community, the NorCal, Northern California scene, has, I think, a disproportionately high number of competitive Tristan players. A lot of them have been super dedicated and passionate about this deck. They've been working on it, training with it, perfecting it since like May for like 4 months straight. And this version of the deck relies heavily on Corhazi Outlook. And so they went through a lot of grief over, this version that they poured so much of themselves into. Yeah,
I'm kind of in a similar boat because it's like, I advocated for getting rid of this card. I said, yeet it into the sun at some point.
Yeah.
But, I can kind of see it from the Tristan player side too, after talking to quite a few of them. Because it's like, it's not just like a good card in the deck, it's a key part of the deck. And the Tristan players, like, they really love that deck too. There's like so many tricks you can do. And Corhazi Outlook is like good in every part of the game. It's a enabler for getting the prep, but it's also a win condition. So like when you want to go in for that, blow all your prep, Shadow Strike, that your opponent can't do anything about it. And the deck is like, it's one of those decks where there's so many small decisions at every step of the game that if you are a master of the deck, it feels like you can overcome any challenge. It feels like almost like one of those decks with an unlimited skill ceiling. The more preps you put into it, the better you get at it.
And a little bit more context beyond that too is that we have some we had some very major tournaments coming up right after this ban. So for them, it was like everything got flipped upside down suddenly.
Getting feedback from both sides, people who play Tristan and people who play against Tristan, and trying to like get an idea of like what motivated this particular banning. Is it like overall power level of Corhazi Outlook or Corhazi Outlook in the Tristan deck? Or is it like more like a play philosophy or that it was causing negative experiences for players and then they got rid of it because it was just not fun to play against? I'm wondering like, what do you guys think about like the rationale behind this banning.
Yeah. My personal opinion on this is like, I definitely think the power level thing is, maybe it's a concern because of course, like, you know, Sean, for example, did really well with this deck at Chicago.
Lift yourself.
Yeah, lift yourself. But if you look at like what's followed behind, right, in the various, you know, around the same time, right, of course, we got the Sylvie nerf too. So it may be not a power thing, right?
Yeah.
Meaning like there's the deck that's powerful is actually probably the Sylvie deck.
Oh yeah.
Right?
It's by far the
But the
most
Tristan
popular.
deck did, again, perform very well. So I think the power level, maybe there's a little bit of argument there, but it's a weaker one. I do think, you know, the focus of this is basically that negative player experience. And it's kind of like the, you know, do we want GA to have a card like this that is oppressive and potentially limits like future design philosophy, right? Of course, in the future, yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. So I just reading the notes that they write in their
Yeah.
BNR articles, it didn't sound to me so much of a power level or meta performance thing as like a, you know, as you said, the play experience thing. Because when Erupting Rhapsody hit category 2, which is like the tier on the watch list where it's like heavily problematic but not banned yet, I think they wrote something about like, oh, we're gonna keep monitoring the meta as it progresses the season and see how this card does. But then for Corhazi Outlook, they never said anything like that. They were straight up just like, and you know what? I'll just read the excerpt. They were like something concerns regarding limitations of design space and the interactive components of Grand Archive. We want to encourage healthy strategic diversity in decks across the meta. While we do feel that there is a space for preemptive protection effects, Outlook might set a poor precedent for our objective with these kinds of effects.
Yeah.
And I super agree with all these reasons. As like I said in the last episode, especially the healthy strategic diversity index, I think I felt kind of a relief that now we could start seeing a bit more creative decks with Outlook gone. And like I had friends that also expressed like, oh yes, finally I can brew this one deck, or like finally I can bring this one deck I've been saving to locals because now there's no Outlooks to stomp on me.
Yeah, it's like we've definitely heard from the Tristan player side too that it's like, oh, we can't play our decks anymore. But like almost equally, we've heard from the other side that it's like, oh, I can finally play all these other decks. Excitement to brew things that they were kind of feeling like, you know, hesitant to bring into the store because maybe Corhazi Outlook would just say, well, you don't get to do that.
Yeah, and if you think about like, I think even at a another level, why like this is poor or this causes a problem for design space. I don't think the GA creators are trying to remove this preemptive reduction or preemptive like prevention type of thing from the game completely, right?
And there's like a lot of other wind effect, prison type effects is what they typically call this, which is like a proactive way of stopping your opponent from doing something. So Eternal Magistrate, you don't get to Dungeon Guide level up anymore. So it's like, I feel like they already kind of, one of Wynn's identity seems to be kind of these prison or taxing effects. And this particular one just was maybe slightly overtuned compared to the rest of the cards, but they don't want to completely kill out that part of the identity.
Yeah. The other factor is also that Outlook was printed at a time where it was very hard to get preparation counters, so you couldn't really use its effect multiple times. Whereas now with MRC, we have tons of, not tons, but some more resources for generating preparation counters. So it's a lot easier to abuse the ability now.
Yeah. So you know, talking about, you know, some parts of the card are probably fine. It's like, for example, the fact that it costs 2 and gives you a prep is like pretty important for the deck and probably one of the main reasons they play the card. But it also can glimpse. It also stops your opponent from interacting. But that's the part that everyone complains about. But like I've heard some players like ask the question, why not just errata the card and take out some of the problematic aspects of it? Like, why not make it so that you have to rest to activate the ability so that you can't glimpse through your entire deck, for example, and find your Shadow Strike? And you know, it's like I've been thinking how to address this because I think erratas in general are a tool of last resort. And in spite of this, there are some very notable erratas in the game already. And for example, in main sets, there's Viridian Trinket. And there is also the Intrepid Spearman. And then in Proxy's Vault cards, Stone Scale ban, you know, our last podcast we talked about, it got significantly nerfed. And so, you know, I think if we just talk about Proxy's Vault for a sec, erratas make sense there because those are cards that anyone can just print out at any time. And the whole point of Proxy's Vault is to address meta issues. Yeah. So like, it's kind of like a place you can tune the card a little bit and not have really bad repercussions.
It's way more flexible.
Yeah. But for a main set card, once it's in print and you have to errata the card and a new player picks up the card and reads it and like some other more experienced player has to explain to them, no, that's actually not what it does. It's a pretty negative experience.
I thought it was super funny when we were having this discussion about the BNR, and then one of our players, Andrew Penguin, shout out, was like chimed in and he was like, today I learned Viridian Trinket it actually doesn't work the way it's printed. Yeah. And he's been playing for a few months now, and I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, to this very day, players still don't exactly know some of these erratas. And I guess the reason why those erratas maybe were needed, whereas this one maybe is not needed, is that those were actually like, I guess, errors in the text. For Viridian Trinket, it was actually meant to say the current actual correct text right before it was produced. And I think it was accidentally an earlier version of the card image that got sent to the printer. So they had to errata it because it actually wasn't doing what it's supposed to do. And they errated it before it even came out. So it's not like they saw the power was too weak and decided to buff it. It was before you even get this card in your hands.
This card was wrong.
This card wasn't printed correctly, so this is what the text should actually say. And there's another functional errata with Intrepid Spearman because its ability doesn't really work the way that it's written on the card. So they errata, it's like it has a defensive ability that's like when it takes damage for the first time every turn, block 3 of that damage, which means that if you can't do 4 damage the first time, it'll just keep doing that forever and never die. So they errated it to say this can only trigger once per turn, that's a case where the text box didn't function the way it was supposed to function. With Corhazi's Outlook, if they were to errata it, it would be clearly like a nerf to it because of it doing something and then in reaction to it, they would nerf it down, and it creates a really bad precedent for the future design.
I don't want to see that. That
means
or ever.
You could, maybe, if you don't test the cards a lot and then in the future you find out there's an issue with it, you're like, oh, we can just errata it. That's really not the kind of standard we should be setting.
It's just a bad, right now maybe fine with 2, 3, 4 cards, but what happens when you start rattling like 100 cards? Like 100 cards don't do what they say they do. That's big problem
that
for
would
paper.
Be horrible. Another thing that people talk about with this banning, I think we were alluding to this right before too, was it came at such an inconvenient time for a lot of people, particularly the competitive players in the California region.
In California.
Because it's like they had a week literally between that banning and SoCal regionals.
And then that's the Southern California regional. And the Northern California regional was also late in the season in September.
Should the fact that the card moved from category 1 to 2 pretty fast have signaled that, hey, next month, either it's very likely or just guaranteed that it's going to get banned? Because the way that we do ban restricted in Grand Archive, right? Cards have to kind of move up the ladder. Currently, I don't think there's a way to just skip it unless I guess it's very atrocious. And we haven't seen that before. So the problem is, at category 2, right? How do you word it? Do you word it like, hey, next month we're going to ban this card? So is it banned already, basically? Or is it more like you have to say things like, hey, we're still monitoring it. It does feel like negative, right? But by saying those words specifically, there is a maybe that's part of the clause. And is that maybe realistic for players? There's always going to be that element of uncertainty to it.
And there's also an argument that's like, no matter when you announce the ban, you're like within 2 weeks of some major event. Whether it be a store championship or a regional or an ascent. I mean, there's so many ascents all over the world, right?
Is there ever a right time?
That is definitely a really good question to think about. And the next BNR is going to drop October 11th, I believe, 11th or 17th.
Right after the release of Mortal Ambition.
Yes, with the AMB release. So a lot of people argue that is probably the best time with season change because everything is going to change anyway. But also that is 2 weeks before Ascent Singapore? Toronto?
Toronto, I think.
That's right.
Toronto's going to be the first Mortal Ambition
Yeah. So I don't know. Just things to think about.
Yeah.
It's never going to be a good time.
Okay.
Right? I mean, lots of tournaments happen all the time. It is what it is, right?
Right.
Yeah. So.
I mean, but there could be a reason the developers felt they had to do the ban now.
Yep.
Like maybe because like the local draw wasn't as good anymore.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
For me personally, I actually feel like MRC for me, out of all the Grand Archive seasons, was probably the least fun one to play. Not that it wasn't fun. But like a lot of people, they would say FTC is the one that they hated the most. For me, for some reason, MRC feels more deterministic, or felt more deterministic for me.
Oh, interesting.
So I always purposely play off meta decks. I play inoptimal builds because I don't want to play cards that I feel like are a little overrated or don't spark joy for me. So it's always kind of an uphill climb for me, and I kind of enjoy that.
Yeah.
And before, my worst matchups were Rai and Merlin.
Yeah.
And it was like, yeah, I'd often lose, but sometimes if I made the right call, I could still sneak the win, and that felt really good. I don't like the feeling of sitting down across from someone and being like, okay, I know exactly how this is gonna go,
Auto
and
loss.
it's not gonna end well for me.
Yeah.
Auto loss.
It gets predictable.
Yeah.
And
This could mean something, this could mean nothing.
Yeah.
Like, all I'm saying is it's possible that there's other people out there who felt similar to me. And maybe the devs felt like meta needed a change. I don't know. I'm just trying to speculate why maybe the ban happened now and not at the end of the season.
yeah, I mean, for sure, fun is subjective.
Right, yeah,
And
yeah.
so
yeah.
like we definitely don't want to imply that just because we don't like this card, this is like not a card you should have fun with.
Absolutely, no. This is not about me. Like they should absolutely not ban a card just because like random NPC 466 isn't having as good of a time.
Yeah,
like,
they shouldn't really do that for like anyone in particular.
Yes,
That's
yes.
true.
But I think, it could. I mean, I've heard this opinion from a lot of different places that they didn't enjoy playing against it. And, sometimes, even when a lot of people feel the same thing, you may not necessarily want to take that into your decision. But in this particular case, I do think maybe the developers were also already of that same mentality that this was limiting their design space and it not going in the direction they wanted the game to go in. All right, shall we move on to the next change that was on the BNR announcement?
Absolutely.
All right, so
What is that change?
Yes, we have a new addition to Proxy's Vault.
Okay.
And to remind everyone, Proxy's Vault is a set of cards that are independent from main set cards. And when they bring these cards, introduce these cards, anybody can just print them up on their home printer, sleeve it and play it. And they're meant to address different meta issues with a little bit more expediency than having to release it in a main set card. Okay, so the new card, it's for Arasana. It's called Polaris Twinkling Cauldron. It's a 0-cost Regalia Cleric artifact. And it has Arasana bonus. You may activate this card from a material deck. If you do it, it enters the field rested. Whenever you sacrifice an herb, it gets an age counter. And then has a class bonus activated ability. You can banish it and deal X damage to all allies, which is an X is equal to the number of age counters on this card. And then generate that many cosmic bolts, shuffle them into your deck. So I think this explains the market movement you had been talking about earlier.
Oh boy,
Cosmic
Cosmic Bolt
Bolts.
Soup.
Yeah.
One quick clarification is for the ability to activate, you do have to tap it as well. Tap banish. It's not just banish.
Oh,
Yeah.
thanks for clarifying that. Sometimes that's very relevant.
It's for this card.
This one rests.
This for this card especially relevant. Yeah. My general inkling on this card right now is like it's good. It's good for Arasana. It gives Arasana like a little bit more of a way to close out the game. I don't need to go find the only 4 copies of my card that closes out the game. I could have 11 copies of it instead, right? So it helps to do that part. However, this card is kind of slow, right? So I think the devs try to address this by having the ability for Arasana to bring this card out at basically any time.
Yeah.
and
During
have
their
it
main
rested.
phase.
Correct.
Yeah, you can just bring it out level 1. How is it slow?
However, that level 1 bring it out is very unprotected. So you could bring it out, do all the work to put H counters on it, and somebody spurn ash, reduce the ash, all sorts of ways to kind of get rid of this thing. So yeah, and even like if you're dealing with like a wind right? They can Zephyr it, which resets all your H counters, which is not great either. Again, Arsana like has to sacrifice herbs to get the H counters. It's not trivial to just get more herbs. Not quite. We don't have a mastermind scheme for herbs yet, right? So like
Master Farmer scheme.
farming scheme. Exactly. So that's the other reason why this card, you kind of have to materialize it, like use a materialization step to get it, to really make it more reasonable.
Is it really the end of the world if someone destroys your like Polaris that you got out without losing any tempo or cards?
Yeah, they had to lose one card just to get rid of it. Unless you fractarize it.
Like unless you're like literally burning all your herbs just to put it on here, like you're literally going all in, it doesn't seem like much of a loss. You could still do your normal game plan.
Well, the problem is that the reason why this card is printed is because Arsana really doesn't have a normal game plan.
Normal game plan sucks too much already.
Exactly. Part of the problem with Arsana is like they can delay the game fairly well, but you have to close out games. You can't just get a tie and then move on, right? Delaying the game for a long time sometimes also help your opponents. Like a Rye deck is like, cool, we want to delay this thing? I guess I'll just win like one other turn later, right? They get stronger. Merlins get stronger. Delaying the game is not necessarily better for Arsana. And so they really need a way to close out the game. And Cosmic Bolt has been the card, maybe just not enough copies of it. Yeah.
I see. But like in terms of power level, so you're saying it's too slow?
It's a little bit too slow, yeah. Currently, I think through a little bit of testing, like even, looking at like the Arsana matchup against Nico, Arsana matchup against Merlin, it feels about 1 to 2 turns too slow. Yeah.
I do want a disclaimer for our audience that we had to record this episode a little bit earlier than the day we're scheduled to post our spoiler video, because today was the best day for all of us to record. So we've only had about 1 week of seeing this card in action. You guys have another week of seeing it that we don't know what's gonna happen with what's gonna get brewed with this card after we record this episode.
Arsana's top meta right now.
Yeah, we're gonna be eating humble pie like, as soon as this episode comes out, and they have to ban this card because it's too good.
Yeah, errata number 5.
So just based on our 1 week little limited experience, I honestly think, just from the little bit I've seen, I think the power level of this card is perfect for a Proxy's Vault card, because it definitely sparked a ton of creativity and excitement across players who brewed Arsanas, and we're excited to bring Arsanas to locals or come back to the game, because we know Arsana players that stopped playing because the deck wasn't good and now they're coming back. Yay.
Yeah. People are very excited to brew with this card. For
yeah, and it's definitely performing better than it did before comparatively, although it's not, I mean, we've seen this deck tie a lot, like 1-1. So it's not necessarily winning a lot yet, maybe, but it's not losing automatically.
The fact that it's got 1 is a big deal for sure, yeah.
And I don't want one Proxy's Vault card to come out and completely fix a deck and make it competitive right away. I feel like that would just be overpowered.
I agree. That would mean the card is too good.
Yeah, so I feel like it's definitely done something and isn't crazy. And so I like it. I like the power level.
Yeah. Maybe it's meant to synergize with more cleric cards that are coming on AMB too. And the combination of the two will make Arsana competitive.
I'm actually kind of curious. What do you think about the specific design of this card?
Go ahead, Fome.
Strong opinions?
He's foaming.
Oh my god.
He's foaming.
Foaming?
Foaming.
Of course I love exploring uncharted territory and card design. But practically speaking, activating this card sucks. We have more generate cards, which is you have to carry around a separate pile of cards that are in the same sleeve as your main deck card, because you might put them in your deck at some point with an indeterminate upper limit of cards. So I don't know, do I have to carry 10? Is that a good amount? Do I have to carry 20? And then after the game's over, you have to remove all those extras from your main deck and make sure you didn't miss one, or else you might get disqualified or get a game loss from the tournament. I just think it makes it very difficult to physically handle the cards.
Agree.
Yeah.
What's funny too is that people are already commenting on how slow games can be, and now they have to take even more time to shuffle these cards into their deck.
Jeez.
Yeah. Shuffle, give the opponent for a cut.
Yeah.
It's like.
Yeah, and your sideboarding takes longer now.
Oh yeah, sideboarding, de-sideboarding.
Oh yeah.
Or deboarding.
Deboarding.
Degenerating.
Degenerating.
It's not the design of the card, it's
Yeah.
degenerate.
Holy moly.
Oh, wow. So
Yeah.
now if everybody has to carry around 10 or 20 extra cosmic bolts with them, of course, like the price is gonna go crazy.
Yeah.
They quadruple like literally overnight.
Yeah, exactly. And basically, but due to this change, right, we actually saw like cosmic bolt buyouts like across the board on the day of this being announced.
In like the first 20 minutes of the BNR dropping.
I think when I was looking at TCG Player Souls, it was like there were a couple of sales of like hundreds of cosmic bolts.
Oh,
So
It was kind of crazy.
it's pretty insane.
This is the first time we've seen a bit buyout this
At
big
this
in
scale?
in Grand
Yeah.
Archive,
I
right?
think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
well, did Arasana start doing good now? Or is it's putting up results at tournaments, right? Yeah? Yeah?
I mean, I think Arasana in general is trying, right? And actually, this is a good point, a good time to bring up some stats from SoCal Regional. There's a lot of really interesting things that happen
Super
at
interesting.
SoCal
Yeah.
Regional.
So for people that don't know, the SoCal Regional is the Southern California Regional down in LA, hosted by Core TCG. This is the first major tournament that happened since the big ban. So we've been like watching it with Hawkeyes, just like constantly refreshing the page while it was happening,
Yeah.
and like glued to the deck list after they released. It's been super exciting.
I think in the top 16 alone, there were 10 different dark deck archetypes.
That's
right?
awesome. That's really
That's
cool.
amazing. Just to go through some of the decks that were represented.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, Slimes was still like the most popular one. So
Yeah.
of the top 16, there were 6 Slime decks, which is 38%. A good representation, but not the majority of it.
Yeah.
Then we got 2 Wind Lorraine, and then every other deck there was just one person playing that deck. So there's 1 Fire Lorraine, Merlin Hybrid, 1 Fire Merlin, 1 Wind Tristan, 1 Wind Xander, 1 Water Nico, 1 Water Allen,
Yeah.
Fire Tenoris, Fire Xander.
Yeah.
So
Super
that's
cool.
awesome.
Yeah.
Dude,
Very interesting.
Water Allen.
Water
Allen's
Allen.
up there.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to start running that new AMB card to stop the Geldis.
Fire Xander's now back. So
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
the really fast, like let's get this through.
Yeah. That was a deck that fell off a cliff when Tristan was
Yeah.
popular,
Yeah.
which was literally like right before the banning. But I've heard that like that matchup is like 90% in Tristan's favor or something, because it's like they like one veiling and then like your attacks do nothing.
Yeah.
And because the Tristan deck is so good at filtering through the deck, it can always find its defensive cards. It's very good at basically blocking off many small chunks of little damage.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's good to see Fire Xander coming back. I've heard it's actually good against Slimes,
Yes.
which is interesting because people were speculating that now Tristan got a card ban from it, does Slime just automatically become tier 0?
Yeah.
And I think this is starting to show us that Slimes is good, but it's not tier 0.
It's like the balance.
It's pretty balanced, right?
Yeah.
Because there's definitely decks that prey on Slimes that were being suppressed by Tristan, and now those decks are thriving again, and kind of we're getting a healthy bit of that rock paper scissors going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is like a nice little ecosystem of like animals like trying to eat each other. Like, but yeah, I think you're absolutely right, because the slime deck tries to go slow. Tristan goes slow, so that works pretty well, right? But the problem is like the Xander, you have 2, maybe 3 turns. That's it. You hit turn 3, you're dead. Like you're dead, or the Xander is dead, right? Like, so totally makes sense.
Arasana with the Polaris.
Polaris.
Is it doing well
truth?
now? Did it fix Arasana in the tournament?
So yeah.
Like apparently there were 5 Arasana
Yeah.
players, and it doesn't seem like any of them managed to place very high in this tournament, unfortunately.
Is it
Props
too
to
early?
them for doing their best.
No, huge
Yeah.
respect.
Yeah.
Huge respect.
Maybe it's just too early. Like there's some other weird meta, weird lines that we haven't figured out yet.
Totally.
Polaris is really new, right? So somebody has to go adjust to that within like a week. It's even if you have a deck, there's also the learning of the deck and practice with it to know all of your matchups and know all of your lines. That takes some time and practice. So it could just be that. Like it could be like you take the same deck again to the next tournament, and it just performs better because now there's more understanding of the deck and understanding of the different like interactions that are present.
Yeah. Like I really want to be optimistic for a lot of these decks that there are just still things that are yet unexplored, right? Like for example, Alan is doing pretty well at some major events like the Water Alan here, and then there was a Wind Alan that was in the finals of another huge tournament.
Yeah.
And I was kind of thinking this way too for Tristan. I was hoping that like, because I feel like Tristan has a lot of tools at her disposal and a lot of them weren't being used really. And so, I don't know, just like, I want to be optimistic. But okay, so speaking of Tristan, let's look at how Tristan's did at this event.
Post-banning.
Yes.
Post-banning, yes.
I was honestly really happy to see that the event was won by a Wind Umbra Tristan deck.
Congrats to Sano.
Huge congrats to Sano, because like so much respect for being able to like have a week's notice and then pivot your deck and be able to take it out. Like
dedication.
Yeah, they won like 6 rounds in a row and then they conceded the last round, so they ended up with 6-1. But otherwise, they were basically undefeated, which is crazy. And then like, I think everyone's been talking a lot about the Tristan and Slime matchup, because before it was pretty much very balanced. For example, Fractal of Insight, which is the website developed by one of our locals, MDuo, the website is fractalofin.site. It's super insightful as its name.
Amazing website.
Yeah, we love it. Like we've been on it non-stop since the deck list came out for this regional. Yeah, and so they reported that out of 489 matches that happened between a Slime deck and a Wind Umbra Tristan deck, out of all these matches that happened prior to Outlook being banned, Slimes won 50.4% of those games. So it's
50,
like
50.
it's extremely balanced
50,
between the two, which is really cool. I think the first thing we did when Rome or MDuo dropped the Fractal of Insight page for the SoCal regional was we were like, okay, so what's the head-to-head percentage for Slimes versus Tristan now? And it was like, what the heck? It was 85% in favor for Tristan versus Slimes.
That's the opposite of what we expected.
Granted, it was only over the data for 10 matches, so it's like not indicative of like the matchup as a whole.
So what were some of the like deck profiles or changes that were made to the deck to make it continue to be viable?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool that it's like still somewhat along the same like vein as the old deck, but it is in a way totally different. Because like the old deck was a lot of like building up your prep counters and then doing one massive shadow strike and like or with Corhazi Outlook and probably holding up Incapacitate to counter your opponent's if they try to do anything, and then huge shadow strike to win the game. So now it looks like the new technique is just to build a very wide board of a bunch of ominous shadows who are like Tristan's clone, and just like have a bunch of attacks. They play Penumbral Waltz, which is a card that both defends your champion and summons 2 ominous shadows. They play Sharpened Blade, which will buff your dagger by 2, which is awesome with Shadow's Claw because Ominous Shadow is an ally that can actually use your weapons.
Buff
so
the whole team.
So your Ominous Shadows now will all attack using the Shadow's Claw that's been buffed by Sharpened Blade. Everyone's going in. Yeah, it's really cool. And speaking of buffing all your allies, Inspiring Call. Makes all your allies do +1 damage.
Yeah, this is like a go wide version of Tristan. It's actually really fun.
Absolutely.
Sounds really interesting,
And then like our friend Justin Diemba also played a similar list, but he plays Grim Foreboding, which is also an interesting card. So this card summons an ominous shadow. Every shadow gets +1 power for the turn, and it gives you agility 3. So it sounds like this is the new tech for Tristan. It's pretty cool.
So I wonder like, because both the first and second place decks both had 3 copies of Turbocharge.
And
I wonder if that's like
interesting.
the new go-to tech, or is that like the perfect number of turbocharges you want in these aggro go wide decks now? Because like you want to go like guarantee you have a very big hand size, like a high influence count, right?
So it's because typically people usually only run 1 copy of Turbocharge.
Yeah, exactly. Because after you you only have one power cell generator, which is from the backup charger.
Yeah.
So your second and third turbocharger don't do anything.
Well, you can use pay
You
cost.
just pay it and pitch it, right?
Yeah, it's pay
It just
cost.
goes to show how key they just want to see it every game, basically.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
We also saw some other spicy decks in this tournament. Some that caught my eye. So number 6, played by a player named Water Tamer. Probably can tell what their kind of decks they like from their name.
Yeah.
Got there with Water Allen.
Water Allen.
So
Wow, that's just so cool. I'm not proficient with the deck myself, but kind of looking through the list, it seems the strategy is to like stick a big Geldis, kind of hard to deal with, 5'8" dude.
Cowman.
Kill a cowman, and then you just protect it for the rest of the game with like Song of Frost, Frostbind, and then there's like ways to buff it, make it stronger.
Yeah.
And then it also plays like a very powerful card from MRC, Seaside Ringleader.
Yeah.
Which is like, you read this card and you're like, this is busted. How come no one's playing it?
Yeah.
Wait, do you want to read it for
Yeah,
people?
so Seaside Ringleader is a 3-cost water ally, Tamer human.
Yeah.
It has a class bonus and a water bonus. You can pay 2 and banish it from your graveyard. If you do, you draw a card into your memory. But then for the rest of that turn, all your animal and beast allies enter with a buff counter.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Like key slime pudding.
Whoa.
So-
Oh, for
and
everybody.
force-
It draws a card.
Yeah.
So it's like value if you play it, value from your graveyard. If it gets milled, you can still get it. Yeah. So this card just seems crazy and seems perfect for buffing your big cowman. All right, so another really interesting deck that caught my eye. It wasn't technically in top 16, but it was very close.
Yeah.
It was number 18,
Yes.
which is I'm gonna butcher this person's name, but the player's name is like Cyril Q Longtard. And they were playing Win Vanitas.
Yes.
If you can really even say it's like Vanitas because it's like so many different classes of cards in the same deck. Like this deck runs Cleric, Mage, Tamer, and Assassin cards all mixed together. But it's a really fascinating deck, and the engine consists of Windmill Engineer and Baby Gray Slime. 2 cards that's like you pay 2, it comes in and draws a card.
yeah.
And then the rest of the deck are like ways to like put those back in your hand, flicker it, and keep doing that over and over again.
Yeah.
So every time you do this, your hand size kind of gets bigger and bigger, bigger. And then if you take a lot of actions and you're a Vanitas 2, every time you play one of these like mage spells, it gets +1.
Yes.
So you're gonna like pump up your Vanitas to do like a lot of damage.
Yeah.
And the rest of the deck is like you're swinging in with all these allies and then you're punching them really hard with Vanitas.
Yeah.
It's just like a really interesting engine and like pretty interesting that cards you don't expect to normally work together actually do work quite synergistically.
Yeah. I love the 1 copy of Diablerie in this deck as well.
Yes.
There's a lot of one-offs in here,
Yeah.
but it's like, cards that we've never seen because they have Vanitas bonus. It's just fun. Like I love seeing those kind of cards to be present. So yeah.
Extremely unique, very innovative. And like this sounds like this person's pet deck and they got it to like a pretty good position at a big tournament.
Yeah, and I'm glad because this is exactly, I guess, what we're kind of like. I mean, what is healthy in a card game? Like having deck variety is definitely one aspect. It's not all of it, but it's one aspect of a healthy card game. So it's cool to see them, all these decks, different varieties, different things to do well in a big tournament like this. Yeah, show up. Cool. So that's going to be pretty much our show. We do have a viewer question for this week. If you have a question for TalkGA, for our crew here, you can tweet at us at TalkGA_podcast and just make sure, TalkGA, hashtag TalkGA in the tweet and then followed by your question. If you're on YouTube, you can, of course, leave a comment directly in this video, hashtag TalkGA as well, and just start with your question. Or you can also, if you prefer, email us at talkgapodcast@gmail.com. So the viewer question we have from this week comes from Subscribatron3000. And the question is, does Stone Scale Band's legal time frame reset on the errata change? So this is talking about the errata change from last BNR. I only asked because I noticed the date on the card was still 2023. Love, TalkGA.
Oh,
So
thank you.
Thank you. We love you too.
Yes, thank you for your question. The first thing probably we have to address is what is this whole errata like legal time frame, right? And so basically, this is coming directly from when Proxy's Vault was announced. Officially, it states that all cards in Proxy's Vault will be legal as proxies until December 31st of the year after the copyrighted date on that card. Example, if a card has a copyrighted year of 2024, it will remain valid as a printed proxy for tournament play until December 31st of 2025. After that date, players are expected to obtain a physical version of the card that is officially printed Grand Archive TCG card. Yeah. So Stone Steel Band has been recently changed. Of course, the text on it is different. We are essentially also coming up on the date of legality for this card.
Yeah.
So
It was released October 2023.
correct. So if we follow the rules, like you get a full year. So it would be legal until basically the December 31st or by January 1st of 2025, this card should essentially be not legal as a printed card. But that also just gives us like about 4 months to get a physical copy of the card.
Yeah, 4 months, not a whole lot of time.
Could be a big problem.
Could be something to think about. Yeah. So unfortunately, no, it doesn't seem like that has been changed on the card. I don't know. Maybe there's going to be a lot of other opportunities to get the card. Maybe it's printed into like a booster box of some sort. I don't know. But
To be honest, we're all in the same boat.
We don't know.
We're all trying to get the errata stone scale ban by January 2025.
yeah.
Good luck.
Yes, we hope they fix it.
Okay. And that's going to be it for our episode this week. And from all of us at TalkGA, signing out.
请
Gone boy.
Okay, guys, like you don't. I know you've been saying this all episode, but you don't actually fucking say ganbei and drinking tea. Do you know how scalding hot tea is?
ganbei,
You would
all
like
your hot tea.
burn your throat. So you say qing. Okay,
Bottoms up.
Bottoms up.
bottoms up. Yeah, good job, guys.
Thanks for watching.
大家好，欢迎观看讲坛 GA， 我是节目主持人杨友马克。我们今天的话题呢是关于一些 Tristan 的改变，但是呢，首先我们要介绍一下我们的co-host 副主持人有 Eva， 还有泡沫先生，
请
请，
请
哎，好。